everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network and the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of beautiful New Orleans. I am your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. So there's things that I want to share with you before we get rolling. And, I sort of speed through this every week, and we're just going to take a breath and go slow. Hi, Heidi. Thanks for being here today. You had made a couple of comments on social media, and I've just had such a crazy day. I haven't had a chance to come back to it, but that you have that poster, or you had that poster about letting your soul shine is pretty cool. Maybe we're like soul family. We have a lot in common. I think that we kind of are when we hit, when we come across people where we have all of those same sort of connections. I think there's a soul contracts that are playing out in one way or another. Hi, Julie. How are you today? Yeah, it's some crazy energy for sure. So some things that I want to share before I bring my guest out, who is a returning guest, and I'm so excited that he's here. Thank you so much, Howie. So Howie is part of, or owns, head honcho, head hat wearer of the Rift Nation Network, has the Orion Effect, the Outlaws every the first Saturday of every month. Howie, what else am I needing to remember? All kinds of fantastic shows on the Rift Nation Network with the fabulous Miss Rhonda as co-host. Okay, some things that are coming up because I won't remember. I will go squirrel on Red Bull by the time we get going, and I'll forget. So some things that are coming up. The Lake Superior Paranormal Convention in Thunder Bay is going to be on October 4th, 5th, and 6th. I'll be doing, we're part of the VIP meet and greet. There is the celebrity ghost investigation. There is vendors, speakers, all workshops. There is the Spirits and Sweets event, which is on the 6th, which I'll be giving messages. So it's a 2-hour message gallery. So I'm hoping to see lots of people there. I am doing a Love Life Afterlife gallery in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, October 9th. I think that there's only 3 tickets left. It was super incredible and humbling. Thank you so much, everybody who's purchased tickets. And it's hometown stuff, right? It'll be the first time I've done an event in my hometown, I don't know, since 2018 or 19, I think. It's been a little overdue for sure. And then the Love Life Afterlife at the Princess Ave Playhouse in St. Thomas, Ontario. Folks, it's going to be my 3rd year doing an event there. And I'm super excited about that. I think we're 3/4 sold out. It's a former church. It's a really neat place to do gallery event out of, because I think the last time that I did a gallery event there, you could hear, so I've got my headset on and I'm sharing messages, and then there was a male figure that spoke loud enough, like that you could hear it with your outside, like audibly with your outside ear through the microphone as well too. So it's a really neat venue to work out of. I have some fall classes that are going to be coming up, a 5-week meditation course and a 1-night psychic protection and self-defense course that will be coming up. So October, November. So please watch for that. If you are wanting to know about the upcoming guests for Spirit Switchboard, where I'm going to be, events and all of that stuff, head to carrieLynnShellhorn.com. Everything is right there on the website, and you can sign up for the newsletter and have it in your email inbox directly at the beginning of each month. And if you guys sign up for the newsletter, thanks, Michelle. If you sign up for the newsletter, I have a little contest that I run every month as well too. Just make a comment, like, subscribe, share, make a comment on the YouTube channel for Spirit Switchboard, and your name goes in a draw, and I do a mini email reading for once a month for people who sign up with the newsletter and then follow me on YouTube. So there's all of that good stuff. So let me, whoa, Joe, thanks for being here. Happy Friday to you too. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for being here. So let's bring out my guest. There are so many hats this man wears. I don't know how he keeps his calendar in check and balanced. I don't know. I'm in awe. I'm in awe of the amount of energy because I don't know. There's days where 5:30 rolls and I'm ready for pajamas. And I think that he's just going at 5:30 with his day. Author, paranormal investigator, jazz musician, host, TV host, producer, so many different hats. So please welcome to the show returning guest, Eric Mintel.
Carolyn, how are you?
I am so good. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks for having me back.
I know in that list, I'm sure that I forgot probably half a dozen things.
Believe it or not, I just played in there was a documentary called The Godfather of Fentanyl. And I played believe it or not, this just happened. I played a funeral home director. And I was a non-speaking part, but I was consoling a mobster.
Oh,
but it was about
love that.
Well, it's a documentary about the real life Walter White. And it was really cool. But it was on, I think, on Fox Nation or something like that, through their online thing. But I think it's going to be available soon. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was
fun. So we're adding actor.
Yeah, well, and I played in, and I don't think you even know this. I played in the History Channel World Wars miniseries. I played an Italian general to Hitler and Mussolini, and it was like, so, and I did a lot of walking. Again, no talking, but I walked into the castle. I walked up to Mussolini. I walked behind Hitler and Mussolini. But I was in like 3 key scenes in that thing, and it won like all kinds of like awards and stuff. But it was fun. So when these things happen, I just say yes.
Yeah. Well, why? Of course you do.
But it was really cool. And then, of course, with my jazz quartet, we're playing. We're on tour. We were up in Martha's Vineyard this summer in July, and then come November, December, we usually do our Charlie Brown jazz concerts for
fun
for the year. Yeah, and so it's like jazz half of the year, Charlie Brown the next few months after that. So it's I've always had that. I always loved being busy, and being creative. So I just think it's like, you do the same thing. We have to we're always like working toward something greater than ourselves,
I know that I have all of the ADHD qualities, so I get bored quickly. So I'm always wanting to expand and evolve and do more. I just can't have it the same all the time because it's just no, it's a no-go. And I was thinking too, like, you take great photos. So you've got, I was like, so kind of like what my bookmarks are, what I'm going to talk about later. Yes. But I was thinking like, you've got the blue steel look, You got it going on. Yes. I just love it.
Oh my God. I'm such a ham. That's the thing, it's like, and
having fun.
And, in the photos, because Dominic and I are on the investigations, and honestly, that stuff happens within 20 minutes of those investigations. So when you see us in those pictures, I'm usually like,
So I have the book here, and I know that we're eventually going to get talking about the book in a bit. But the bookmarks that I had were actually the pictures of Dominic in the book, and even the pictures that get put online. I think the next book needs to have a whole chapter of just Dominic's reactions to stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. And Oh
And
my
I'm
God.
not trying to make fun. I understand because people always comment to me, I just love watching you work. You make the weirdest faces when you're working. And I because it's sensory, and it's sensory
Yeah.
for Dominic as well
Oh, yeah.
too,
Oh,
right? So you
definitely.
smell something or see something, feel something, and it's like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And when he's going into a location, and for those who don't know, Dominic Sattele's my team member, spirit medium. But when he goes to a location, I never tell him any of the history of those locations. I pretty much keep everything to myself until we get there, until he starts pinging on something, and he's getting something. And then I might say, well, you're kind of going in the right direction. But he's always kind of like, just like a deer in the headlights sometimes, just
oh
figuring.
yeah.
But there have been times where he will just be kind of like repelled out of an area and he does not want to be there. Or I'll drag him into an area like Elkhorn, Wisconsin, investigating the Beast of Bray Road, which is completely out of his wheelhouse, and and getting reactions there as well.
So
Yeah,
I've had Dominic on the show as well too. So if anybody is listening or watching, you can look through the archives. The archives are on SoundCloud, anywhere where you're listening to your, the streaming platforms for podcasts. So, and Julie Krause, like I've had Julie
yeah.
Krause on a couple of times as well too, and you have her as a guest medium as well too, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, and if you lived closer, you'd be on one of the videos too,
Oh,
because
thanks.
it would be awesome. I mean, Julie is phenomenal too. And like Dominic's a spirit medium, Julie is a psychic medium. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but both of these guys on the investigations are really great because I always say that they give us a preview of what we're in store for.
I understand that, and I've often wondered, like, if it provokes the experience as well too, right? Because they get excited probably ahead of time. Like if we think of it as a collective consciousness, are they already tapping into who's going to be coming to that?
Well, that happens. That happens because on the investigations that we go into, say if it's a bed and breakfast or a restaurant or anything, the people at the restaurant, when we did the Water Wheel Tavern in Doylestown, the manager said, I don't know, it's been a really weird week because it seems like things are happening here. And we're like, yeah, because they know it's, the spirits kind of know what's happening and things are starting to ramp up. So, with me, I don't have what Dominic and Julie have, to be honest with you. And you know this too. I don't have that going into certain places and feeling that. Maybe I do. I just maybe haven't developed it. But I know
you have an eye for detail.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I try to. Yeah, I'm very detailed for sure. Yeah, that's one thing. And I have a memory too, which is crazy because I can remember all the way back to like 3 years old. And it's crazy. I mean, my memory, I remember it. And there's of course things I don't want to remember, but I have this crazy memory where I could remember all of these different things in events. But my father was, I think he was more of a psychic because he had gone to a psychic back in the 70s. And he had said that the psychic, her name was Hexie Hammerstein, and she was married to one of the Oscar Hammerstein's
Right.
songwriters. But she said my dad had this very blue aura around him, but said that your son has an even greater one. Now, maybe that aura is something with my jazz, maybe with my music, because I could sit down and just play, and just, come up with all these improvisations and stuff, never having formal training or anything like that. So I don't know, but there is, and we'll talk about it later, but there is one area that I go into and I always get into this one space and feel like I've got to get out of here because this one room, and that's the Vampa Museum where there's one room in there. It's the doll room that's just got a lot of heavy energy to it. But most of the time, I always say if there's something being haunted, if there's a haunting happening, that spirit like to be there. Because, there's a lot of inns, bed and breakfast, pubs that are being haunted. These spirits liked being there. So that's one of the theories. And then one of the other theories is too, that we think that people are picked to experience these entities, whether it's ghosts, Bigfoot, UFO. And it also maybe could be generational. Maybe it's through their family, Yeah. I just had the incredible opportunity. Do you remember Casper Van Dien, the actor? He was in Starship Troopers, and that movie he was like Johnny Rico.
Oh, yeah.
big, and he was in Tarzan. He was in Sleepy Hollow. Great actor. But the Van Deens go way back to like 1600 Dutch colonial America. So it was really interesting how he had a lot of paranormal experiences growing up and generationally. So it's weird, and also the antenna, our antenna might be, maybe that person's antenna is more attuned to those spirits, because you know how it is. You could be on an investigation, you're seeing a ghost, you're seeing an orb or whatever, and that person next to you doesn't see it. They're just not.
And I find, depending on what that vibrational level is for you, people will say activity only happens between 11 and 1, or it amps up at 2 in the morning, but you could get there and it's starting right away because you just have that vibration that kick starts it immediately. You don't have to be there when the known time is, right?
Oh, definitely. And you know what? And
Agreed, Howie. Frequency,
that's another thing that I just had this discussion about those frequencies, because we all do work on frequency, and we're vibrational energies, so we're working off of that. And that's why right now we're having a great conversation. We're bouncing back and forth ideas, the neurons are going back and forth, and it's like my jazz. We're improvising, and if you really think about it, you're improvising every day with people that you talk to.
Well, we're in constant co-creation with the universe and the people around us. It's constant co-creation. So,
and I have to tell you, I have something that happened the other night, because it just completely changed my perspective on this phenomena. Because usually in graveyards, people want to go investigate graveyards, and we never see anything. We never find anything there. Although the other night, when we were shooting part 3 of a new video, we were at a graveyard and we all heard screams coming from, and there was nobody around, and it was pitch black. It was nighttime. So it was like, not, some of it might've been coyotes, I don't think it was foxes. There was more of a guttural scream that reminded me of what it was that we heard in Elkhorn.
I was going to ask if it was
crazy. It was more
dimensional near there as well too, or
I don't know. This particular graveyard, this particular graveyard here in Bucks County is really, really like old. It's a very old graveyard, and here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, we have a lot of stories on ghosts and UFOs, and it's just rich in paranormal history.
When you were on the show last, it was right before the Bucks County Paranormal Convention, right before the ParaCon. So can you share about how that ParaCon went and what you've got planned coming for the next one? I know Dave Schrader's going to be at the next one. I saw you make a post about that. So talk about what it was, what people can expect, and then what you've got planned coming up.
So that happened last March 9th of 2024, just a couple of months ago. And it was phenomenal. I mean, I thought we'd have like 100 people there, possibly. I had no clue. We had like over 600 people there in the small theater that only holds 340 people. So we had to get more chairs, but we had Nick Pope was the main speaker there. And we had Bill Burns from UFO Hunters. We had Tom Carey, myself, and Dominic. We had Eric Spinner, a Bigfoot researcher. And I'll tell you what, it was phenomenal. People loved it. We even had people dressing up like Ghostbusters. So it was like a Comic-Con, and we had no clue on that people were going to do that. So that was really cool. And so this year we decided to ramp it up. It's like somebody said, how are you going to top this from last year? So I reached out to Dave Schrader. So Dave Schrader is going to be one of the speakers. He's going to be the probably the key speaker. And then we've got Peter Robbins, who's also a huge UFO researcher who worked with Bud Hopkins on missing time cases.
Interesting.
And then we've got Tom Carey's coming back to talk about he's a huge Roswell theorist, and he's written several books about Roswell. So he has a talk about Roswell deathbed confessions of people that actually saw the aliens, handled the wreckage, and said on their deathbed of what they actually experienced and what they saw. And then we've got Charles Halt is coming, Colonel Charles Halt, and people will know this from the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident in 1980. if anybody knows that case, he's the guy that was on the little handheld recorder, like giving like a play-by-play of what was happening that night with
Right.
UFOs coming over the base, a nuclear base that was like the UFOs were coming over. So incredible people are coming out. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's
I
going
think that's phenomenal because you don't have a history of running these sorts of events. So no one knows like how successful it's going to be or not successful.
to get
And
it.
you just had this like it's not going to hurt to try, so let's just see what happens. And
And it was a success. We just did it. And now this year's event is going to be March 8th of 2025. And March is a good time frame because nobody, there's nothing really going on around that time.
right.
So it's on a Saturday, March, and it's from 11 to 8. I think we're going to do at the end of the day, we're going to do a little roundtable discussion with all the guest speakers and keep the audience in there and have, some interaction back and forth.
Right.
And the retention of the audience last year was incredible. Everybody stayed all day. And we had all vendors there. So we're going to have vendors again this year. All the vendors completely sold out of all their stuff.
Right.
Every vendor. So it was really, there was a lot of happy people there.
You had somebody dressed up as Sasquatch too, right? Because you've got that picture of you getting.
Yeah, I was like getting choked. Yeah. Choked up by Sasquatch. Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. And I didn't even know that was going to happen. We had people dressed up as aliens, Sasquatch. These guys came in Ghostbusters costumes. There was a guy dressed in black with his little microphone here. It was so cool. So it was really, really cool. So this year we're going to.
Yeah, I might send you. I might pop you off an email with a thought about some of that, because in my squirrel brain, because I've met a number of people and guests on the show that seem to know how to draw them in. So at these conventions, they go outside, they set that vibration again, Howie, about vibration, thought patterns, and pull in those UFOs where the lights come in at these conventions. They take everybody outside and go, okay, let's go, call them in.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Oh, yeah.
And the way it goes, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Dominic was also doing one-on-ones there that day as well. He was just, and one after another. It was just incredible. And this year,
he wants to do that next year.
I think
it gets kind of peoply when you're extra sensitive and you do that at those kind of places, right?
It gets exhausting for him, I'm sure. It's exhausting. I mean, both of us
but
too.
People are so appreciative at the same time, right?
Oh yeah. It's incredible. What he that's the thing. He's trying to help people. That's what we're trying to do. And the other thing is too, when for my show, I get a lot of people saying to me, "Help me, my house is haunted. Could you guys come in here?" We don't do that. But I will refer them to people that like Julie, people that could go in and cleanse a house or something like that. Because we don't really do that. We go in and we're doing, we're being called upon to do a piece on, say a symphony hall or an opera house or a restaurant or something like that. And then doing events for that afterward, so it's more like a paranormal tourism TV show. But capturing unbelievable evidence, which is just mind blowing. Which we're still wrapping our heads around that Beast of Bray Road.
So, for those people who may have missed that first segment, having you on, hi Cindy, thank you for being here. Can you give them a little bit of the backstory? It is phenomenal as well too. Yeah. And I saw. I think it's Heather McLaughlin. I saw you. Now we're just there we go. Heather McLaughlin. She is just saying the Beast of Bray Road was a great episode.
Thank you so much, Heather. That was great. And we, to make a long story short, we, our good friend and fan Ellen Collins, she basically made this video happen. She said to me, you guys should do a video on the Beast of Bray Road, and she's out in Wisconsin. And I said, I would love to do that, but being here in Pennsylvania, how are we going to get out there? Who's going to pay for it? Anyway, she paid for the whole thing. And hi, Cindy. And so she got us out there, and this was October 2nd through the 4th of 2021. And so, of course, this was recent. It's not that long ago.
Right.
So we got out prior to this, I had seen, I think it was in 2020, of course, COVID was in full swing. and everybody's home, and I'm watching a ton of paranormal shows. And there was a show on, I think it was called Paranormal Declassified, and they did a piece on Lee Hample out in Elkhorn, who lives about 2/10 of a mile from Bray Road, where this creature's been seen on his property. So when they were there, it was like wintertime. But when we went out, it was October. But that night when I saw Lee on the show, I said, he looks really approachable. I'm just going to give him a call. And Carolyn, most of the time, most of the things in my life have happened from me just asking. Whether it's performing at the White House, the Kennedy Center, I just called up and said, because I figured, why not? Let's just go right to the top. So I called.
At least because we're adults, we understand all they can do is say no. But if they say yes, how fabulous is that? And having that, it's that high intention, low attachment. I'm not going to have an expectation of what the response is going to be, but I'm going to try.
Exactly. So that was it. So I saw Lee, called him, and we had a conversation for like 2 hours that night.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And what a great guy. I mean, we become friends. His brother, Fred is like 80 some odd years old, 83 or something like that. He's got the energy of just a teenager. He's unbelievable.
And the stories probably to go with them.
Oh, definitely. But Fred and Lee had no interest in the paranormal whatsoever. They didn't care about that stuff at all until Lee had his experience one night, and I think it was 2014, when he saw these red glowing eyes staring back at him. And then all of a sudden, boom, the thing takes off and 15 feet in the air and disappears. So it was insane. So we went out there on this was October 3rd, the night of October 3rd. And we were in this and Lee is a hay farmer. So for the folks that don't know the story, it's a 35-acre hayfield. And if you can imagine this, it's like a big rectangle. So the corn is on either side, but the rectangle is all the hay is down at this point. He had cultivated the hay. So that's all down, and we could pretty much walk through there. But we're in an area which Lee calls the bait area, which he puts roadkill deer in there to attract this creature. He has trail cam pictures, I kid you not, of this weird mist that comes over the deer. You could see the deer in the picture. Middle of the daytime, this weird black mist comes over the deer, and in the next picture, which is like 30 seconds timed, apart, the deer's gone, and so is the mist. Just like that. So it's very, very weird. So these anomalies are happening all the time on the farm. So we're down in that area, and we thought we'd have to scrub the investigation because it looked like it was going to rain when we were up at Lee's barn, and we went down on four-wheelers because it's a little haul to get down there.
Right.
So we're down on the four-wheelers. We get down to the area, and all of a sudden Dominic looks up because it was all clear as a bell. So it was me, Dominic, Ellen, and Ellen's son Scott, who was working camera. Just the four of us. Get off of the four-wheeler, and Dominic looks up and looks at the sky, and then all of a sudden goes, "What the hell is that?" And here, a solid orb of light is going over the field, only about 1,000 feet up. And it's just, you could see it just going over, no sound, solid orb. And you could see all these other planes around it. And all this, as we're sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, we're saying, hey, there's planes here, but this is a solid orb. It does a little 45-degree angle and then disappears. It blinks out. And we caught it all on video. So Cindy knows this, I think it was Cindy or one of the people that's like the Bray Road video. Heather. But I would suggest people going out to check that video out. It's called The Beast of Bray Road, Alive and Well. Right after the howl, right after the UFO, we heard a howl in the distance, along in the distance. And it was definitely not a coyote.
Yeah.
And you could hear one getting closer. And I got to tell you something that just happened a couple of weeks ago in regards to that I never did when we were doing the video and when I was editing. So we hear the second howl, and Dominic and I are looking at each other, and we're like, what the hell? We're like, what is that? And all of a sudden he goes to Ellen, "Are you hearing these howls?" And she goes, "Yeah, they're coming from over there." And with that, on the third howl, we hear this low guttural scream, growl, yell that to me sounded like a man screaming in this field. And it was so loud We had little microphones here, like for close miking. It was louder when we were there. It was so loud it picked it up on, and you could hear it on the video. But I'm saying it was a lot louder on the site and deeper, but you could hear it on the video.
Yeah.
And I kept that part of the video raw. I didn't do any audio editing on that or anything. I kept it as is.
Right.
Right after that, we were like, what, what are we hearing? What is this? I mean, the fear factor was there, but we're like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, this mist came up from the field, which was crazy. It came up from the field and it started messing with the audio. You could hear the audio cutting in and out of the video. The video was fine, but the audio was wacky. And we're like, what the hell is that? And then what really got me was we're sitting there and Dominic goes, we're standing there still trying to figure out what's going on. Dominic goes, why don't you shine the flashlight over there or shine the light over into the corn where we heard the howl. And with that, he shines the light over there. We see two eyes going like this in the corn, 6 to 7 feet up. Now, this thing is supposed to be 6 to 7 foot tall, Dogman, upright canine on 2 legs, a werewolf type creature, per se. But we're seeing these eyes like this, and I'm like, okay, that's it, we're out, because we had no protection.
It is a safety issue.
It was my stupidity because I didn't think we were going to see anything. I went out there thinking, we're going to hear a great document. We're going to hear great stories. We're going to get a great documentary. Never thinking once that we'd ever encounter anything. And we did that night.
Right.
And it was within a half hour. And then, Carolyn, guess what else happened? The entire town of Elkhorn lost power that night.
The whole town.
The whole town. Because Ellen had to take her son back to the airport that night, then that later on that night, and she was in pitch. I mean, the whole town was out, and then the next morning,
bizarre.
I woke up the next morning and there was a stick that I must have brought back from Lee's field, and I showed it to Dominic. He's like, "You brought it back with you, didn't you?"
Because that's a no-no. Don't bring a stone. Don't bring a souvenir.
But what I didn't do, and I don't know why I did not do this, I didn't listen to those howls on headphones when I should have, when I did that before. For whatever reason, I didn't do that. But only about maybe a month or so ago, I listened again to those howls, and I didn't realize on that second howl, we heard a growl, like that behind us. And it wasn't audio. I didn't hear it when we were standing.
You were being flanked.
Apparently, because there was something behind us and there was no wind that night. And we kept hearing this rustling sound behind us. We never saw anything other than the eyes. But I never heard that before until I heard that on the headphones. It's actually Elkhorn is in Elkhorn, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Elkhorn. That's right. And it's ELK, like elk horn, ELKHORN. But yeah, they're it's like southeastern Wisconsin. So
a lot of stories come out like that, though, right? Where you're going to have that high strangeness creature with a UFO or with some kind of UAP sighting in conjunction with each other, right?
Well, the thing with this whole investigation, why it's still like wrapping our heads around it. So when we were in the barn with Lee and he's showing us all of the pictures and everything, all of his evidence, he had a picture which I could not believe. It was this picture in the middle of the daytime where you see these orbs in the sky, these like translucent orbs with something in the middle of the orb that looked to me, it looked like the creature. That could have been the creature in this orb, right? So there was like 5 of them.
So dimensional portal. Do you have a theory?
Well, that's what I was thinking when we saw that UFO. I'm wondering if this thing deposited these things from that, and that's because we heard the howl right after that.
Right.
And so that was like very weird. And I know it's really out there to even think about that, but I mean, we're in an environment now that people are talking about all these kinds of things because they're having these experiences. And, but yeah, we're talking about portals. We're talking about maybe it's an interdimensional type thing. Yeah. But those pictures really blew me away. And that was one of the things that I thought, wow, could this have been some kind of like an extraterrestrial type of thing? that could be, that's what we heard. But then he has some other pictures of hair samples of this thing where under the microscope, it's translucent. There's no medulla. So it's completely translucent. So then the thought process is, are these things cloaking themselves? And that's why people can't see them. It's like a deer. You know how a deer can really blend into their environment, and it's there. You have to kind of hone in on it to see it. I'm thinking it's something similar to that. I had a gentleman that basically he had a huge Bigfoot encounter right out here in Bucks County back in the mid '80s, and had a deer thrown at him. Now you think that why would a deer be thrown at him? That's Bigfoot's main source of food. But this thing threw the deer at him, growling in the middle of the night, 3 a.m, pitch black, and he's seeing this deer on the ground. It's kicking it. It must have broke its back, but it threw this thing out and basically just wanted him out of there. And that's how I felt with Elkhorn. They were saying, "Hey, this is our territory. Get out of here." And it was insane. And then, we did a follow-up. I think I told you this. We did a follow-up.
Yeah. So there is a Bray Road Part 2 or Revisited.
Yeah.
Is that when there was an issue with the security or with the motel keys?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. We were out in the field. We did the follow-up. We didn't encounter it that time. But what we did encounter was when we were in the field, and we had our hotel keys in our pockets, when we were in this field. And we went this time on the second part, we went into another adjacent field that we didn't think we would be able to get into because now the corn was down at this time for our part 2. So we went into that field, that cornfield where we actually heard the creature, and we found all of these weird square tracks. Very, very just, crazy, square tracks, almost octagonal. But then we went back to the hotel and we tried to use our cards. They were completely demagnetized.
That was great.
Which was really insane. That was one thing. And then what was even wild was we did a town hall meeting before we did the investigation. When we got into Elkhorn, we had over 140 people show up to tell their story about seeing this thing. And all describing the same thing. When it's on 2 legs, it looks like it's gliding. And then when it's on all 4s, it looks like it's really fast. And and then we have another creature out here apparently called the Beast of Bryn Athyn.
So before we get to that, there's a couple of questions. So somebody's Teresa Leduc Chalmers Cowley, it was saying heard about the mist when they were talking about skinwalkers, which there is some commonality to that story to Indigenous stories regarding skinwalkers as well too. Howie is just commenting as well too, or asking, theorizing out loud, could the fur, which he corrected underneath, could the fur be translucent and creating the camo? Interesting thought. Can you believe the light reflection off translucent fur?
Oh yeah. Well, look at what the government's doing with the cloaking of vehicles, with the vehicle cloaking. I'm thinking it's the same kind of technology there. It's kind of and that's a great question because it's like a whole new, like he's just saying right here, a whole new theory. Because that's what we're thinking. I mean, that's why you're trying to shine lights on this thing, and it could be right next to you. You just can't see it.
But would you be picking up sound or vibration or other things? And then my question always is ley lines, tunnels, crystals under the ground. Is there any of those things that would potentially be a factor as well too?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And that's what we have to look into a little bit more. We did get access to more, another 185 acres there. So whenever we can get back there, if you have anybody that's, a TV show producer or anything like that wants to hire my group to go out there, hey, you know what? We've got full access now to all these acres, which we believe where we know where the creature's living. But I promise it won't be like an Oak Island, and I won't be digging forever.
You know what? Do not hack on Oak Island. I am emotionally invested. It is like being a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, where I'm in it for the long haul.
In the long haul, man. You have to. They got us hooked.
I don't care if they only get one button a season. I want them to be successful. And that's the thing, right?
I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
It is why people get emotionally invested in any of these stories. We all want to be, we're in it with you for the adventure.
Oh, and those guys are hell of a nice guys too, and their heart is in it 100%. Yeah, you just want them to find something, for God's sake.
Anything. Just anything. Howie's saying or. So or if it's just absorbs light.
That could be too. I mean, that's another thing. You know, Ellen did a lot of investigation on did a lot of research on the tapetum lucidum, the eye glow, the eye shine from a lot of these creatures. You know, whether it's wolves or usually like yellow, but something that's going to glow orange or red has got to be producing some incredible amount of energy to be able to do that. And that's what Lee saw. And that changed his whole perspective. Lee used to be a school teacher. He was a teacher in Wakanda, Illinois, and 35 years. And just that changed his whole perspective on when he bought the farm. His neighbors said, "Oh yeah, by the way, that's where the creature lives." And he's like, "Creature? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh yeah, the Beast of Bray Road's on that property." And Lee just thought, these guys are full of, you know what, but then had his own experience. And that was it. And oh my God, just that we could go on forever.
Like we kind of had this conversation prior. Do locations call to us on some level, you know, consciously or subconsciously pulling us to these places to have these experiences? And, you know, being able to look at it with left brain and right brain methodically. And then, you know, if you're going back repeatedly, what other experiments can you try besides what you've already done to see if you can produce other results, right?
Incredible. You know, and that's what we try to do all the time. But, you know, the thing is, you know, you always leave with more questions than you do answers.
It's a rabbit hole, man. It all is.
It is. And it's like,
you cannot start in the paranormal. You cannot start in the paranormal without landing in the quantum theories. Like you cannot, it is all connected, and you kind of grow past some of like the spirit stuff. And then you're starting into dimensionals and portals, and because you can't, it just leads to that every time.
And every time, well, let me tell you this, if we have time here,
lots of time.
Okay. Right after Elkhorn, we did an investigation a week later. After Elkhorn, we did an investigation of Bigfoot in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Now, people think of, when they hear the Jersey Pine Barrens, they always think the Jersey Devil, you know? And the Jersey Devil's always, to me, has always been like so many inconsistent theories about that. But, you know, it's always either a winged horse type creature, like a big horse, or maybe as small as a turkey or a medium-sized dog. So they've always been inconsistent.
So that's interesting, because this is the other thing they say, they affect our minds to mislead us. We are not seeing as they are near. So they do affect how we see. These creatures have been seen. And the reason why we did this investigation is because Eric Spinner and Art Mack are great Bigfoot researchers down in New Jersey, in the Medford, New Jersey area. And they have been getting reports of these juvenile Bigfoot that have been seen, and going in neighborhoods, grabbing the garbage, and then going out back into the woods. So it was weird. It was very like intriguing to me. So I said, well, let's do it. Let's go down to this area. So we went to this area called the Bowl, and it's at the Wharton State Forest. And it, for all intents and purposes, it's a bowl. It's like high on either side, and you go down into this area. But we were in. And if anybody knows anything about the Pine Barrens, it's thousands and thousands of acres of just dense forest. There's just pines and all. It was just like incredible, just desolate, no houses, nobody back there. But we were about 5 miles in. Go ahead. So this was after you did Bray Road.
This was a week after Bray Road.
After. So Teresa is saying, how could you protect yourself against that? So going into this new investigation, did you have a different forethought in how to prepare?
No. I just went blindly into it again. I just went like this. I'm like, well, here we go again.
Oh,
but,
dear.
and nobody's got a sidearm or anything like that, in which, I don't really, in those kind of predicaments, you have to be careful with that kind of stuff. But I don't.
My dad lives on a reservation in Northern Ontario with my stepmom, and there was a sighting of a bipedal, very tall, 8 to 10 foot creature dragging the hind quarter of a moose. And I'm like, Dad, could somebody bring me out there? And he's like, do you want to die? Like from an angry, and I'm like, as long as somebody's got a camera and films it, we're good, right? Like that's always like, as long as someone gets it on camera.
You're going down the ship. Yeah.
It'll be epic.
Yeah, exactly. I went out like this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. But it's, you're right. I mean, those things are incredible. And when we were out there investigating this, I was like, again, just didn't even think about that again. Because I try to feel like protected in general. I put myself into this strong, faithful kind of thing, Yeah. And I'm not a particularly religious guy, but I have strong faith, which
common sense to know when to tap out.
Exactly. So we were down there and this is October 11th of 2021, and a week after Elkhorn. So we get down to this area, and now this area is 5 miles into the Pine Barrens. We're 5 miles in, no one around, pitch black. And we went about 600 yards into the base camp, into the bowl, set up chairs and everything. Long story short, we're sitting there. Dominic and Art are sitting there talking about the Bigfoot and UFO connection, which there's a really interesting correlation. As they're talking, all of a sudden we hear a whoop coming from the woods. And now I've seen these shows before, right, where these guys are whooping and hollering, and I'm always like, is that what they really sound like? And I'll be damned if that's not what we heard. And then on top of it, Eric Spinner had high-powered audio going. So he got it on audio. And what we did was Heather, his wife, goes and answers it back, and they're having a conversation back and forth. She's whooping, it's whooping in the woods, something's out there. And this thing is 4 or 5 times back and forth. You could hear it all on the video. And it's all truth. It's all that stuff happened. So it was amazing. I mean, we were, again, 20 minutes into it. And I always say to Dominic, I said, here we are again, 20 minutes into it, and we're getting all of this activity. I say I blame it on him because he's like a magnet for these things, But
again, is it vibrational? Is it, that collective consciousness where they're already tapped in and excited because I believe that whether it's dimensional, here they want to connect. So if somebody's already reaching out, they want to reciprocate for the most part.
I think you're right. And I have never, the thing is, and I remember being on Dave Schrader's show, and he said, what if this thing came after you? What did you think was going to do? What going to happen? What would you do? And I was like, I didn't think that far, because just the sense of wonder was like, what are we hearing?
I would be like you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's get it on video.
Let's just see what happens.
But Carolyn, this is unbelievable what happened next. So that was that investigation. We wanted to go back and do a follow-up, and we tried to do it a couple of months later, but things got busy with me, got busy with everything. Everybody got busy. But we finally did a follow-up in last year, coming up on a year now, September 3rd or September 2nd of 2023. And we went to the same area. Now, Eric wanted to do another investigation somewhere else. I said, no, let's go back to that area where we had all that activity. I'm sure that's where we're going to get something. And they had some wildfires prior to this back in July of last year. They actually had wildfires in July of this year, too. That area is very prone to wildfire. It's so dry down there. But the area that we were in, if we were sitting in the area with the wildfires, we would have been on fire. It was completely like engulfed in flames. And you could see the trees charred. It's a beautiful cedar swamp, but things were starting to come back again. And this is September. That fire happened in July, so this was September, but you could still see the charred. So we set up base camp, and we're sitting there talking again. Now, Art is unfortunately going through some cancer treatments, and he's going through some cancer, and he's got to take medications, but to look at him, you wouldn't think anything's wrong with him, but he's taking medications. But we're sitting in base camp, trying to talk about their protocols, what they're doing. And Art goes, guys, I don't know if it's the medications I'm taking or what, but my heart is really racing right now. So as soon as he says that, boom, we hear a branch crack behind us. And right after that, I turn around, the camera person turns around, Eric's daughter was on camera. We all flip
Oh,
around, and here we see this branch going like this, just like something just hit it. And for 2 seconds, I saw two yellow eyes, and they were disappeared. They just disappeared about 7 feet up and gone. And you could hear me on the video going, it's right there. It's right there. And we were jumped up that night. And that was something. I am pretty calm when it comes to these kind of things, but that was weird because there was something there. And then you could hear something going back into the swamp. The other thing, why I say, and why Art's heart was racing. By the way, he was fine. He didn't face plant or anything like that. So
yeah.
it was a good thing. Because we made a joke too. Art's like, nobody even came back to check on me. But he was okay. He's still doing good. But I don't know if you talked to Dominic about this at all, but he devised some kind of way earlier that day, talking with Art, that Art was somehow, and I don't know if anybody of your listeners will connect with this, but that Art was somehow connected to Sasquatch or Bigfoot in a way that Sasquatch or Bigfoot is seeing through Art's eyes and is connected with him on that level, and vice versa. So why I say that is, why was Art's heart racing at that moment when this thing is watching us? That's what I was thinking. Maybe this thing's getting nervous. It's there. It's watching us. And it made that noise and then bolted out of there. And Art was feeling that.
Well, and that would make that's not necessarily telepathically connecting, but it is that vibrational in sync. Like,
Right.
I know when I'm working, it will feel, if I'm tapping into if it's a male spirit, I'll go, okay, I feel like I'm 5'10". I feel like I got a tooth missing out of when I'm talking. Like, so they'll tap in. If they have a higher self, if they're a being, they're tapping in collective consciously into that other person.
Well, it's like in the movie E.T. right here, and Elliot, they basically had that connection in the movie. It was that psychic connection. So it could be something similar to that. I don't know. But I think there are people out there, like I said, that are connected to that spirit world, somehow. So I thought that was fascinating. And
that comes back to that question are those creatures choosing a person in order to make connection, to help elevate their message, or help elevate education about them, to understand them even more?
Totally. Yep.
And Sherry, I just want to, I see the question that you're asking. So are they waiting for someone to reach out to them? And I'm not going to blanket that with every creature that we run across, because certainly I don't think that, the Bray Road doesn't necessarily want to connect. It's like trying to scare you out. But I do believe that there are some that do. And I think that's no different than people. There's going to be some that are on the nasty end, and some that are like, hey, let's be all kumbaya.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think spirits and creatures are the same.
I agree with you, because I think the whole dynamic there is the same. Whether or not it's interdimensional, or if that person is connected spiritually somehow to those entities or that entity.
So coming back to, I don't know if Howie is still with us or not. Do they create the rabbit hole for us so that we never actually get the answers? We just they just keep us spinning, right? Like we get enough snippets to keep us hooked.
I think we're getting closer to the answers, because now we're doing there's experiments on light spectrum now. So
are we getting closer to the answer because they're allowing us to?
Maybe.
Like, who knows, right? And it's just posing the question.
That's a good question, because you know what? Are they allowing us? That's the thing. And look, here's the other thing too. In this, and everybody knows this, we're in an age of AI. So there's a lot of fakery going on out there, which, and I always hate to see that, because people will think that's real and it's not. Some of the stuff that people are posting, and every once in a while I'll raise an eyebrow, but then most of the time what I try to do is I go back to the old footage. If we're talking about UFOs and Bigfoot and ghosts even, you go back to the old pictures where there was no digital anything,
Yeah.
and even with that, like the Patterson-Gimlin film of 1967,
Yeah.
on a lot of UFO photos back in the 60s, 70s, that you just can't, the one guy, Billy Meyer, he was out in Switzerland. Those really cool photos, that of the UFOs, they were deemed fake because he was hanging like, UFOs from a tree
Right.
doing, but those
Cottingley fairies, that was fake too, but in the day they thought it was real, but
exactly. But
all that fun stuff.
today,
I love my Polaroid camera. I bring my
yeah,
Polaroid with me everywhere.
oh, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. And you should, because you never know.
Yeah, different. You can't do anything to it. If it shows up there, and I have this really cool shadow figure that showed up on the Polaroid, it's like my little gold nugget
Well,
piece, right?
I tell you what, did I tell you what happened did we go to the graveyard yet? Did I tell you about the graveyard the other night?
No.
I don't think I did. So I know I'm kind of jumping all over here. Sorry, guys. And
No,
also,
that's okay. That's okay. Is it in your book though? So
no, it's
okay.
none of these things that I'm talking. Well, the Beast of Bray Road's in the book. Yeah, and we could talk about the book if you want a little bit too.
Because no, you could talk about the graveyard first, and we can talk about the book. In the book, though, I did have it opened up just because we were talking about the Beast of Bray Road. At the end, when you have your acknowledgements, Scott Chrysler for being your brave cameraman. That
Scott was unbelievable that night, and Scott, that's Ellen's son, Scott. He was great. Well, the book is called, obviously, it's Eric Mintel Investigates, Casebook Investigations, right there. Thank you so much. You can find that on Amazon. But that is from when I started this show in 2016. It was originally called Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, but we quickly changed it to Eric Mintel Investigates. But in the acknowledgments, yes, Scott was incredible. And just to go back to that for a second, Scott also builds hi Michelle. Scott builds high-end drones and very fast, drones, right? And he has to wear virtual reality glasses to see where he's going with these things. So the thing when you were talking about portals and why I think Elkhorn and Lee's property has a portal on it, during the day, we were doing some reconnaissance in the field, heading over to the bait area.
Right.
Scott had us on his goggles on the drone, and in this area by the bait area, we disappeared off of his screen on his goggles. Digitally, we disappeared. We were still there, but digitally, he had to take the glasses off to see where we were. He put them back on. We're not there. So
is there any time shifting?
I don't know. We didn't look into that. We should look into that a little further, but we never really looked into more of that. But it was weird because we disappeared, and we don't have any of that video from that, from Scott's, because he can't record that part. He's not recording that. But it was insane that's what happened.
That's really bizarre. And did it happen more than once? Like, has he tried again?
It did. The night of the investigation, because I'll tell you what happened was, now Lee has all these trail cams around, right? They're all over the place. Well, the night of the investigation, he calls me the next day. There's no video of you guys out there. The trail cams, all of them shut off at like 5:00 that night. Like they didn't take another picture until 7:00 the next morning. Now that's so weird. Why would that happen? And how would they be shut off? There's no on-off switch. You just put them out there, but it's like something was preventing us from getting pictures of something, and that's
more intelligent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I didn't mention this too. Prior to us doing this, I had put steak bones in this bait area that we had the night before, and I baited this area with steak bones. Well, the next morning they were gone, but it was just crazy what it was and what it could have been. And just the fascination of this thing of still not knowing what it was. I mean, for months afterward, we listened to all kinds of like howls, and it was not a coyote, it wasn't an owl, a fox, screech owl, nothing like that. Elk, nothing. So we're still wrapping. And I've even
Are
talked.
there footprints after?
Didn't see any footprints either. But Lee's got photos of 5-toed, 7-pad tracks. No creature has that. So he's got a photo, and I should have sent you that. But there,
Okay.
yeah.
Can they find it? Where could, if people wanted to?
I wonder if I could I go on my screen somehow? And I guess I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could find it on my screen, but I could send it to you through email. Maybe could I do that? And could you bring it up on screen possibly?
We could try. I don't really know how, but I'm willing to give it a go.
Well, let me do this. Let me see if I could find it here too. I might be able to find it for you, but if anybody has any questions too, but I'll tell you, it was just absolutely insane what we found here. I'll see if I could get this. But guys, you will freak out when you see this because Lee just was like he didn't know anything about this. And oh, here we go. Let's see. Lee Hampel. Okay, here we go. Tracks. Beast of Prairie. Oh, actually, Lee also sent in Fred, his brother Fred. He made up an escape map to get out of the field at Elkhorn. And I'll tell you,
I think that's smart, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, to be honest with you, if people were in a fear situation or panic mode, would they be grounded enough to go? Here's my.
I don't know if you could see that, but there it is.
Yeah. You can. That's. Wow.
I don't know if you can see that well enough or not.
Yep, it's pretty clear, Eric.
It's five. It's 5. I think it's 5 pads, 7-toed. And that was when they went out there and looked at they looked at all of this evidence out there, and then he's got other tracks. He's got tracks here that they go in one direction, and then one of them splits off. I think he's got another thing here that they basically split off on one. Yeah, it's there's so much evidence here. But
so would there be? Can they create their own doorway? Can they create their I don't know, because you hear people talk about hearing like a pop sound or this sound.
Like a door sound.
Yeah, like a.
Well, that's funny. I've been hearing this, and when I used to be a field investigator for MUFON, and I would get cases from people that would, have these UFO experiences. One guy told me that he saw this disc, and in the sky opened up like a door, like a garage door in the sky, and he could hear the door slam. But it was completely just the sky. So it was something that was just, again, translucent, invisible, but this thing went into the square, into the garage thing, and then you hear it, and he heard it slam from like a few hundred feet. That was a few hundred feet up. So
before I understand that you're saying even as a little kid you kind of had that sense of wonder as an adult, but when you have those kind of experiences, does it change your perspective of what's important in your life, where you want to, where you put your energy, what you engage in, not engage in? Like, you hear some people say how it's life altering for them, and there's definitely a shift that can happen for many people about their friend structure and who sticks around and who doesn't, who's supportive and who's not.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. And that's the thing.
That's part of involvement as well too.
I think it's, and look, the thing is, I don't mind if people don't have those same beliefs, that's fine. If you don't believe what I've experienced, I just don't, I don't like the fact that, and I go into a lot of these on the skeptical side too. So I have a nice healthy dose of skepticism going into some of these things, but I don't want to hang around with somebody that just has no open-mindedness to any of this. At least have a conversation, just like that's it, cut and dry. No, they don't, exist. It's, that person has no sense of anything, no sense of wonder, no sense of like there could be something there. Maybe there is something there, or they could be scared of it, and they don't want to go in that direction. And
Yeah,
I
there's a
noticed
lot
that
of fear.
with some people, they don't like to go in that direction. Some of the guys in my jazz quartet, they don't want to even bother with any of this stuff, and that's okay, because it's something that I find fascinating, and we've been connecting with a lot of people. The thing is, I say that I'm a jazz musician. People go, "Oh, that's nice," and then I say, "But I have a paranormal TV show." They go, "Oh, tell me more." And they're more interested in that.
Well, and I find those people who will say poo poo on it, right? Usually have a ghost story of some kind. They've got a weird story that they want to share as soon as they have an opportunity to tell you.
Exactly. Well, everybody I'm sure you've come into this too, where, I don't care who it is. You could be a skeptic, young, old, rich, poor, whatever. Someone has a ghost story. Someone has a story that they can't explain, and that's
Hi,
something
strange
happened.
story. I
Great.
need to be cognizant of the time and do a little station ID at the moment. So thank you everybody that's participating in the chat. We appreciate you being here, and the comments and the questions. Please keep them coming. Thank you so much. And if you are just joining us now, you are listening to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans. My guest today is Eric Mintel of Eric Mintel Investigates. He is a returning guest. And we are here chatting all things high strangeness and paranormal, and your book, which is Eric Mintel Investigates, case file investigations from 2016 to
Present.
now to present.
Beyond and beyond.
Yes, stories, encounters, otherworldly encounters. It's all in there. There's so much in there.
The one and the story that's in there that I hope. Thank you for buying my book, and please,
Welcome.
it's available on Amazon. It's available in all the markets in Canada and all over the world. But the thing is, there's a story in there that I start off with, and I don't know. I think I've told you this one, but something that completely happened to me, which really changed my whole life. Really. And it's the first story is the lady in the woods, because to make a long story short, I'm going to probably, this is the first chapter of it, but, I was driving to a gig, and this was like November of 1997. And I'm driving to a gig in Bucks County here, and I'm going down a road called Pine Lane in Bucks County in Wycombe. And and it's dark, and it's like, it's a little wet out. So the roads are a little slick. I'm going at a really incredible, pretty fast clip, because I'm running late for this gig. And I'm going along, and all of a sudden, a deer runs out, and I hit it. And I felt terrible. I'm like, oh, so boom, it hits it. And it was on the left side. And we both slid. I slammed the brakes on, and both of us, the deer and the car, sliding at the same time. Stop the car. I get out of the car, and I'm looking down at this poor deer. I'm feeling terrible. And I'm like, and all of a sudden, now I'm a piano player. Out of the woods behind me, I hear a woman's voice say, "How's your hands?" So I do one of these things like that, and turn around, and here there's a woman all in white coming out of the woods, comes in front of the car. And if you look at a person through their car lights that's standing in front of your car at night, you know how it's like kind of blurred out. You can't really, you can't see their image. Anyway, she's standing there. She reaches down and picks takes the 200-pound deer by the ear and drags it off the road like it's nothing. Like it's light as a feather. And then says to me, "You better get in your car, get off the road." And I got my car. I didn't even say a word. I was stunned. Get in the car, and I told the guys what happened. They were freaked out. And I had a pretty big dent on my front of my car. My car was drivable, but it was still a big dent there. And I went back the next day thinking maybe there was a house there, somebody in the woods that was like, that spooked the deer out there. But I went back, and there was no wood, no houses, nothing but woods. And the deer was gone too. So it was the craziest night. But my father had a similar experience with this woman in white.
So, okay, share.
Just and then I'll go right and then go into what you were going to ask me, because this correlates really incredibly here. So we used to live in an area called Upper Black Eddy, which is not too far from where I am now. It's like maybe 20 minutes from here. And it's right across. We lived in a house, a little apartment that had, our spot was on the bottom, and there was, it was like a duplex kind of thing. So we were on the bottom, and there was somebody up on the top.
Right.
And my dad, let's just put it this way. My dad was a little bit of a partier in the 70s. So he would frequently go out late at night. And he said that he came home, but he swears he was so stone sober this night. So he comes home and he was cooking a steak that on the hibachi, a little grill that we had on the porch. And our porch looked directly over to the Delaware River, which, washing across the Delaware, that river. So he's sitting there cooking the steak, and it's about 2 a.m. And he's looking over there and he sees something white on the water. And it's like, looks like it's floating on the water, just something floating in the water. Right. And as he's adjusting his eyes, he's looking, and here it's a woman, only about a half a mile away, if that, not even maybe a quarter of a mile away. And it's floating on the water, and it turns and looks at him. And when she turned to look at him, her face came right up to his from a quarter of a mile away. And then turned back. She went back to the water. And as she was floating on the water, she's saying, "I'm going home, I'm going home," and singing those words. And he said you could hear the words echoing through the valley. Now, and then she disappeared. I said on his deathbed 2 years ago, I said, "Dad, did that really happen?" He swears that happened. So, and then come to find out later, there is a lady in white that has been seen in Bucks County from other people. So it's very, very strange correlation. So, but I always thought, she was my guardian angel.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I mean,
it wasn't scary. I thought it was like she was saying, "Get off the road," and, but yeah, it was just, that was really crazy. And that was like, that's something that I often think about that almost every day.
But even that message, "I'm going home," it doesn't feel scary to me. It's like giving you hope and understanding there's something more, right? There's something way more than the meat suit. And
definitely. And, and that's why my dad, I think, had more of a psychic connection than he thought, because he had so many weird occurrences, being out at night, and seeing these things.
I always question, though, why is it always like the lady in white? It's always like the stories are always the lady in white. So I started buying, we're oversharing now. So I started, so April Cornell, folks, sells these like almost like Little House on the Prairie, white cotton, like nightgown things for ladies. And I'm like, I wear them all the time consistently. And I'm like, because if I die, I want to be the lady in white. I'm gonna be the lady in white.
And it's comfortable.
Go away for work, and I'm in the motel or hotel in my like white nightgown, just going silently down the hallway. Because I'm the lady in white. Somebody's gonna tell a story about me.
I know her.
Because I just don't understand like why it's always like the white. I don't know. If it's presenting in a way that feels comfortable for us, if we saw it as a black shadow, would we hold our breath and not be as open to having the experience? Because if it, whatever fear factor, belief system projected onto us or perceived,
I mean, you just said it, because, you're talking about a shadow. So we did an investigation last Monday at an antique, haunted antique mall. And this day I got there, I didn't know that the owner, Tim, had this activity happen, but he said the day before we got there, he saw a shadow figure in this one room upstairs. So I was like, wow, and I didn't know that at all. And I didn't tell Dominic, and he didn't tell Dominic either. But when Dominic was going in, he's getting tuned in. He's like, "You have a shadow figure here." And Tim's jaw dropped. He was like freaked out. He comes to me and goes, Dominic's, he hit it on the head. Dominic's the real deal. And he was like really jumped up.
Does
But
Dominic have a thought about what he thinks shadow figures?
it was a woman in that house. We think it's a woman that used to live there, because there was a family that used to live in this place that the antique is now. But here's the thing that happened. So we're upstairs and we're doing some, I'm taking footage. We've got our guy Mike Striegel was on, another cameraman, and he was working with us. And I'm sitting there taking pictures and trying to get some background shots. And I'm saying upstairs, and it's still kind of light out, and there's no reflection. We're on the second floor. And I'm texting Leslie, his wife, who's downstairs. I'm saying, hey, we're getting some great footage. This is really turning out great. With that, I look up like this, and something caught my eye, and it was a black shadow that went this way. And then Dominic's in the other room. He sees it. And then the other thing, Tim is downstairs at the foot of the stairs. He sees it going across the top of the stairs. So it was confirmed by all three of us that night that we all saw it, but we're not in proximity of each other, which was really cool. So we got
At the same time or different times?
same time.
So I've said that about spirits being omnipotent. Like they're no different than angels. They can be in 10 different places at the same time for people, again, about how they want to be perceived. Like if you're feeling, is it one spirit or was it three?
Exactly. It was, I think, that's the thing. It could have been three. I don't know.
And then how we respond to it, because depending on that vibration and then depending on our own personal experiences and belief systems, will all respond differently to that, right? So the interactions can be different.
Oh my God, definitely. And the thing is too, I think, and I really think Tim is really connected to the spirit. And Dominic even said, and he didn't even, I think he told Tim that night, he goes, you have a spirit attached to you. And Tim was like, I knew it. And he's like, and we don't do that. We don't tell people this kind of stuff. Dominic's pretty good at you don't.
There's a responsibility to it.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. There's a real responsibility to this, and you don't want to freak people out. And there's nothing and if it was anything, it was a good spirit. And it turned out it was his mother's spirit that was around him, and that's protecting Tim, which was really cool. So it was more comforting than anything. But
more really, people need to learn to pause. Is what I'm about to say helpful or harmful? Is it helpful or hurtful? Is it assisting somebody, or is it going to create harm? Right? And doing that pause. But discernment isn't everybody's forte.
Oh my God, no. I mean, and that's the fear factor too. You could be sitting there. But I mean, that's why to me, I love, and one of the other reasons why we do these videos too, is I love telling those stories, because it's amazing to me, and I'm sure you know this too, that it's like people have no clue what's in their own backyard.
Yeah.
And
my sister came on. We did a whole segment. My sister came on the show, and we did a segment about we researched unique, lesser known cryptids, and we made a list of ones that we wouldn't mind having living in our backyard. So what ones did you feel okay with having in your backyard? And we made this list of cryptids, and we had this whole show about, those ones are angry. We don't want the angry, hungry dudes. We want, these ones instead. You don't want a pup wedgie.
Yeah, no. Or a Wendigo. No, you don't want that. No. I mean, and there was a woman that was sending me picture. I mean, it was over 100 pictures she was sending of, and I felt bad too, because she was sending pictures of her backyard saying that there was a Dogman in the arborvitaes that were there. I never saw anything in there. I just saw arborvitaes. It's kind of like you're looking for something that's there that's not there. The pareidolia, like the clouds,
Yeah.
And it was hard to say, look, I had to finally say, look, I'm so sorry, but I really don't think I'm the right guy for this, because I can't see what you're seeing. Yeah. And there was just other things like lights in the woods, but it was obviously a lawnmower that, was a riding lawnmower that she was, and you could hear it, going through. So sometimes you get that kind of stuff. And look, there's a lot of fakery going on out there too, like we just said. So, it's,
I have a really hard time with pictures too. I tell people the same thing. It's not that I don't want to believe your experience, or I'm trying to not validate your experience, but like I don't tend to see that what other people are seeing.
Yeah.
Like it has to be really like right there in the photo, and then I go, okay, for sure, this is something that's interesting that maybe needs to be investigated more. But 9 times out of 10, I don't see what other people are seeing.
I think that, do you remember last year we had the guys in Las Vegas that said there was 8-foot aliens in the backyard?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I would naturally, assume they're telling, this is like crazy. I don't know if anyone's really kind of like looked into that case, but these guys were really genuine about that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's really debunked it or not, but
I don't know. But
they swear and there's evidence of.
I've watched other podcasts where they said they couldn't debunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interesting. Michelle is just sharing. I have a photo of a cryptid outside that looks like a cat with hooves.
I would love to see that. That's wild. That sounds wild. And a lot of times, we get video and photos that we're like, wow, that's something. Even Lee has a picture of the Beast of Bray Road right in his field, this big black mass from one of the trail camps from far away.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you don't necessarily encourage, like, it's not in that repertoire of in your schedule to do home visits or house clearings. Like it's really like historical places or places that have some kind of connection to.
Well, yeah, like homes that are haunted, or not homes, but bed and breakfasts and inns, places that have a great history and also a haunted history.
And open to the public in some way.
And they're open to the public, yep. And then we do events for them, which is really great.
Can we talk about the one that you did at the Vampa? Because like having the experience at the end with the crash.
That was crazy.
It was the cherry on the top of that whole cupcake.
It was insane. And Julie had mentioned too, and you probably thought about this as well, that having all those people at the premiere probably fed the energy.
I agree.
And it was it was weird how it all happened. But anyway, so for those who didn't know or don't know this, we did a series called Paranormal Pickers, and it's a takeoff on like American Pickers, but with haunted objects and things like that at the Vampa Museum in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And Edmondo Crimi is the curator and the owner of the museum. Beautiful. I mean, these objects in there are beautiful. He's got over 700 vampire killing sets that are, I mean, it's just incredible. The beauty of these things, the woodwork but you also have to think to yourself, why so many of these things back in the 17 and 1800s? Why were there so many made? And they've got like, the holy water and the salt so it's incredible. So we've been doing this series there at the museum, but also going on location to other areas that Ed is affiliated with. And what I didn't mention before, which I heard remember the growl that I mentioned to you earlier in Elkhorn that I heard on the headphones? Okay. That was the same growl that we heard in the Vampa Museum.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Which is really crazy to me because I'm thinking to myself, man, I hope we didn't bring anything home. Because we're in the barn. We were in the barn on the property of the Vampa Museum. And we're back there and we're doing some investigation. And we kept hearing some weird sounds in the back corner. And that was a corner that Dominic and Julie were being called to.
Right.
So we get back there and we're back there. And all of a sudden we're doing this thing where Ed said a chandelier one time fell on his head because Julie was picking up on that. She said, did a chandelier fall on someone? And sure enough, it fell on Ed. And as we were saying that, Julie goes, well, I'm glad you're okay. As she said that, we hear this growl in the barn. And we heard it in this corner, which to me, it sounded like a kazoo. It was like, arr. It was like that. And it was really weird. So Dominic goes.
With your outside ear, you heard it.
And it was caught on video. And we caught it on video. So Dominic goes, and we were all like, what is that? And then Dominic goes, that's the same sound I heard in the museum when you were interviewing Julie in the other room. Ed and I were in front of the doll room, and that's what we had heard in that room. I'm like, well, let's go back. So we wrapped up that night's shooting. we went back about a week later, and we went. I said, well, I want to get some footage of you talking about that, Dominic, in front of that room. So we did like a half shot of Dominic. He was standing in front of the doll room talking about what he had heard. He's like, yeah. And I felt like, and Dominic's going, I felt like it was maybe the batteries in the voice boxes of the dolls that were dying. Well, there is no voice boxes in those dolls. They're antique dolls. There's no electronics in there at all. As he says that, we hear like that in the room. Dominic freaks out. We all freaked out. I think, no, I was the only calm one there that night, but Ed freaked out. Dominic freaked out. Dominic said, what the heck? And we kept the video rolling, and it was the strangest thing. And he has a Burmese doll in there, the beautiful doll that's about 5 feet tall that has real hair. And the family did not want this doll because it was causing all kinds of havoc in the home. Well, This doll, we think it was coming from that thing, and other people that have visited the museum have heard that too. So it was very, very strange, and so that's something that and that's the room that I don't like. That's the room that I don't want to be in. And it's just, there's some really weird energy in there.
So you go in, it's almost like documentary style. So, right? Like this investigations are reality.
It's like a reality show, like a reality show, not so much a documentary, but like a reality show where we're going in and talking about some of these objects, people that are connected to these things. He has a box that was given to the museum from a family member of Elizabeth Montgomery. It was actually Elizabeth Montgomery's item, bewitched from the tomb. And it turns out later that Elizabeth Montgomery actually played Lizzie Borden in the Lizzie Borden story, in the 70s, and also comes to find out she is related to Lizzie Borden somehow. So it was really strange,
Interesting. I want to come back around to so you put this, you do these movie premieres. So you put it together like a half-hour video, you get people to come out, and then you also educate people. So you watch the movie and you talk about investigation, you give them some education as well too. And so what happened after the Vampa when you did that premiere?
So we did the premiere, and we did parts 1 and 2, and it was about an hour, each one was a half hour. So we did like a little Q&A between each one. At the end of part 2, and it's all over with, and everybody loved it. They're getting ready. They're getting up to give us a standing ovation. I said, well, that's it. And I said, that's the end of part 2. They start clapping. With that, boom, we hear this big crash in the back of the barn where we heard that growl. And we go back there. Ed freaked out. Ed goes ripping back there. I go back with Ed. Dominic and Julie are up front trying to figure out what's going on. We go back there and hear a hutch, beautiful hutch, fell over, smashed all the glass all over the place. And it was just the weirdest thing. And the timing of this was crazy.
The timing is bizarre. And if you guys want to watch the video, head over to Eric Mintel Investigates on Facebook. And the video is there for you to watch.
Oh my God. It was insane. And then Julie got really freaked out that night. She's like, we got to get out of here. We got to get these people out of here. I'm not feeling comfortable here. This is not safe. Right. We got to get out of here. So we went back over. Some people went over to the museum, and then some people left. But it was amazing. I mean, that was just crazy. And it happened. I mean, it was just right on site happened. And that's why we were saying, we were thinking with all of the energy of those people there, that this thing manifested that energy and was able to, knock it out.
Agreed. And it would feed off of, so it was probably feeding off of all of that the whole time. People were watching and responding and reacting.
Exactly. Oh, it was insane.
And even more so, my question would be what happened for Ed within the barn of the museum after that crash, because that is that release, but it would have also fed off of the fear reaction that everybody had, because everybody would have responded. So was there any more activity after in that space?
No, that was it. I think that was done at that point. Because everybody was out of there. Everybody just went and bolted downstairs. It was like after hearing that, people were just like kind of freaked out. They loved the premiere, but they were freaked out with that. And that was like, okay. But there were people that came back to see the hutch. So people weren't scared to not be there. There was a bunch of people that came back to look at this.
What I think happens is we all have that fear moment and then we laugh.
Oh, yeah.
So it shifts it, and whether it grounds us back into, the situation, we recover from the fear and then we can approach it. But fear is always followed by laughter somehow. And the thing is with that barn, Julie hit on something with Ed that made his jaw drop, and he couldn't even talk about it. I don't even know what it is. So there was something that could not be talked about, but Julie hit on it and completely like rocked Ed's world. So there was something there that we can't even, and I don't even know. I mean, there's some areas that I don't even know what's going on, in some of these rooms. So I don't know. It's just, there's something going on there, and it's a weird energy. Shadowside, thanks for being here. And I'm glad that today was a positive experience for you. Thank you for that. Heidi, glad that you're here and you pop back in. Thanks for being here, Shadowside Paranormal. So you guys, if anybody's wanting to follow another page, Eric, also you have your YouTube page as well too, Eric Mintel Investigates, and
please like and subscribe. We're trying to get more subscribers, and then my book is
share it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my book's on Amazon.com, and just my first book. So my first book, and it was a long time coming with this book, because I had wanted to do a book in the longest time, and I was getting so frustrated to figure out how to do it, and I finally just bit the bullet and I just did it, and so it's been so much fun, and it's doing another book signing this weekend at the Vampa Museum on Sunday, and the
pictures from the first one that you did are so great with everybody holding their books up. It's so great.
I sold 30 books that day. It was incredible.
It's very humbling, right? Like, you have all of that support, and
I am so grateful beyond belief from the people that really follow our page, like our content, because when I'm doing these videos, people have to, and I think people realize, but maybe they don't. It's a lot of edit. That's hundreds of hours of editing.
Well, I'm in awe of it. It's honestly like that you have, that's why I said like that you wear all of those hats.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know when you sleep or like when you have time to sleep. Yeah. Yes.
I go to the gym.
Are you a coffee person or a tea person?
Definitely coffee. I go to the gym every day too. So I'm like really, except for the weekends, I take the weekends off. Oh yeah. And try to eat right. But, I mean, I've just got that, like you, we all have that fire in the belly just to tell these stories. And I love, and I've met some incredible people in this industry that, it's a small industry, it's a small community, and we all have to help each other out, and,
I agree. And I think there's so many things that I'm grateful for about having Spirit Switchboard and this opportunity, but the community of people that I have met that I just enjoy. I just vibe at the same, like I have loved having you on the show, and Julie I've had on a couple of times as well too.
And you're going to be on my show soon.
I would love it. Yeah. We had Kim Sage on. I adore Kim Sage.
She's going to be on this Tuesday.
Oh.
I haven't even recorded her yet. I did. Oh my God. And that's the other thing on top of it. I've been doing like 30 or 40 interviews in the last couple of weeks. So I've got, but and it's going to be, I love it. And, and then everyone's perspective is different. I talked to a Bigfoot researcher yesterday. Before that, I talked to an incredible spirit medium, which I will hook you up with too. Who the guy is incredible. He draws what he's seeing.
Oh,
which is really cool.
So I'm following you along on the journey, watching your social media, and I'm just cheering from Guelph, Ontario. Sharing you out when I can, and just excited to watch it unfold for you. Like,
thank you.
And that's part, I think, again, this is what the community or creating a community is about. It's
Yeah,
not about competition. It is about supporting one another and being excited when somebody has these experiences. It doesn't take away from your journey or your value to support somebody else.
exactly. I was going to say, if any of your listeners are in the New Hampshire area, I'm going to be in New Hampshire next week, speaking at the Exeter UFO Festival in Exeter, New Hampshire, and that's
Which is that you?
Saturday the 31st. From I think I'm going to be at Town Hall from 2 to 3:15. And then they've got me playing some solo piano jazz that night at the Congregational Church right across the street.
Oh my gosh, how
And
fun.
so that's going to be cool. And then on the 21st of September, Dominic and I are going to be speaking, believe it or not, at the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
So tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell me, like, Mothman is a whole other. My best friend is so frustrated with me that I have not done a Mothman segment
Oh,
yet.
you definitely have to talk to Steve Ward. Oh, you got to talk to him. He is the Mothman expert. I will send you his info. He's phenomenal. And he is a wealth of information on Mothman. Steve Ward, he's one of my friends on Facebook, but he's also going to be down at the thank you, Heidi. I agree too. He's also going to be at the Mothman Festival because he curates the he works at the Mothman Museum. But the Mothman is going to be phenomenal.
I think that I know of him.
Okay. It's
I
like,
think I know of him.
oh my God, it's like 30,000 some odd people in a 1 mile square town. It's going to be insane. My daughter and I and my girlfriend, we just went to the Curiosities and Oddities Expo in Philly at the Philly Expo Center last weekend.
That.
Yeah, it was great. And then she bought a whole bunch of stuff, but there were a lot of people there, a lot of vendors that are going to be down at the Mothman Festival. So it's crazy. So it's
about community. It's the story that's fascinating, right?
The story is incredible. And I don't think a lot of people know the story too well. But again, Steve would tell you more than I could say. But from what I know, the Mothman is supposed to be a humanoid winged type man, Mothman with red glowing eyes that people had seen, I think in November of 1966, I believe it was, or 67. November of 67 was the very first sighting. That's right. Because December of that year, there was the huge Silver Bridge collapse in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And some people attributed that to the Mothman, but not the Mothman did not cause it. It was more like the Mothman was warning folks about this imminent disaster. But people were seeing this thing. It was coming up on people's porches. It was, oh my God. And
running alongside a car, flying beside a car.
Oh, yeah. And it was seen down in this TNT area. It was an area that the government had made explosives for World War II. And so a lot of people were seeing this creature down in that area. So it's just a story that has kind of like just been handed down from generation to generation. And so we're going to go down there and we're going to speak about, our Bigfoot investigations. And we're going to talk about Elkhorn and some of the other investigations. We're going to have my book for sale and some other stuff. But yeah, I've been wanting to get into that festival probably like the last 3 years.
Oh, and that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the way that you and Dominic work together, it's really a joy to watch.
Oh, thank you.
You guys have this friendship that's like brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've known Dominic since high school, and but I didn't know he was a medium in high school. And, he got married and about like early 90s. And of course, our lives went different ways. I got married and he got married. I got married, divorced. But then he came back into my life maybe 2017.
Right.
And he said, I might be able to help you on your investigations because, I'm a spirit medium. I'm like, what? You never told me this. We practiced martial arts together. We did like a karate instructional video together and all kinds of stuff back then. But again, life got in the way and just, but we came back together. So yeah, he's been on the team. And I'll tell you, like I said, he is like, we have great energy between us.
You
And
do. And there is a need to feel safe in order to be vulnerable when you're putting yourself in those situations.
oh, definitely. Oh, I agree. I mean, and that's the thing. It's not my way or the highway. It's I always get everybody's input on stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm like a very democratic way of thinking. And because like if although when I'm shooting video, like I know directionally wise what I want to do that way, but
Right.
but when we're on the investigation, we have to kind of go in, and Dominic's giving us that preview, and if he's not feeling comfortable, then we're not going to go down there. We're not going to go down that particular road. Um, and so yeah, we've got some great energy. It's been great to work with, and Julie's been phenomenal to work with. But yeah, there's just an ease of communication, when it comes
Yeah.
to that. And in capturing what we're capturing on video, we're having a big premiere of the Old Lime Inn video that we just did in May. We're going to have this premiere in October 3rd in Old Lyme, Connecticut, and incredible place. It's got a jazz club on the side, so so it's got right up my alley because my group's played there times. But we caught some incredible things there, and Dominic tuned in on a lot of really cool stuff there that was happening.
So after the premieres, do you have that video available for other people if they subscribe to the channel, or?
Yeah, that then right now I've got so many videos in queue that when they get the premieres are all done, that will be out, and but people could see the videos once they get subscribed on my YouTube channel. And yeah, we've got over 100 videos there, and a lot of really cool interviews too, and one of which will be you very soon.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it would be fun to hang out and be on the other end of this.
We still have to pick a day, so like maybe this week sometime. I guess we could do something if you want. So or next, or because I know I want to try to get it in before it gets really crazy for me in September, and then like I said, I've got 28 days booked in a row in October.
So crazy. Do you have is it listed on on your website, like where you're going to be?
Yeah.
And you do a great job on Facebook and social media as well too, listing it out where you're going to be, which is like you're speaking at a lot of places. And Rich, I don't know, like Shadowside Paranormal, I don't know if you heard Eric mention that he was going to be in New Hampshire next week.
Yes, next Saturday, I'm going to be speaking at the Exeter, New Hampshire UFO Festival, and that's an all weekend event, Saturday and Sunday. So it's August 31st and September 1st. I'm getting in there Friday night, but oh man, I've been looking forward to this festival for so long. And Peter Robbins is going to be up there. Peter's going to be there. Tom Carey's going to be there. I'll be there. A couple of other speakers that I'm not familiar with are going to be there. And then I'll get a chance to play some solo piano concert for that's going to a really good cause that night at the church next door.
And I want to promote the Bucks County Paranormal, like the ParaCon, the Bucks County ParaCon.
Yeah.
Because it was such a hit, and it's just going to keep growing exponentially every year.
Thank you. So it's held at Bucks County Community College in Newtown, Pennsylvania. It's going to be March 8th, 2025. So if there's any vendors that want to come down and be a vendor, by all means, please do, because you will do so well. All of our vendors last year sold out of all their items. The food trucks that we had there, the 3 that we had there, sold out of all their food. And it was just a phenomenally successful event. Lots of smiles, lots of happy people. So it was
and educational, right? Like everybody's learning something new, and it's that networking and growing that community. And
it was a great mix of topics. It was ghosts, it was Bigfoot, it was UFOs, it was extraterrestrial presence.
You guys seem to have a little triangle there, your own Bucks County triangle.
I know. Oh, it's incredible.
Weirdness and high strangeness.
I partnered up with the college, and it's just been so much fun, and it's a great partnership, and I'm looking forward to making this grow year after year.
Yeah, that's so great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the UFO Paranormal Radio, the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans. Thank you, everybody that's in the chat, that's been hanging out and supporting Spirit Switchboard and the guests. Thank you, Eric, for being here. And I look forward to when book 2 comes out and having you back on. We'll have to have Dominic on again as well.
We'll have to have Dominic and me on at the same time. We could like.
I would love that.
Yeah, because
I'll just sit back and hit go, and you guys can like banter back and forth. It would be great.
And the other thing with the videos, you've got to have a good time. So there's an entertainment value to our videos too. We're serious when we come to the research, but we always have a lot of fun. So it's just a lot of fun, and I really appreciate your work, and I really appreciate your kind words for having me on the show. And I really appreciate everybody's comments and everything today. So look me up on social media, and let's all come together and try to get some answers together.
Yeah, and just share research and share experiments and what theories, all of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you keep listening to the United Public Radio Network, Jeffrey Pritchett is up next with the Church of Mabus. And next week on Spirit Switchboard, Anne-Marie Heckert will be on talking about Enlightenment, her debut book as well, too. So another debut book, Enlightenment, 7 Chakras to Self-Discovery. She'll be on talking about that and inspiring you to dig deeper with your intuitive and spiritual journeys. So I hope you guys can join us next week as well, too. So have a great weekend. Be safe. And I will see you next Friday night, guys.